This is another video for the Jacob's Project channel, and in this one I'm going to be making a little copper tree dream catcher kind of thing. So I'm starting off by using the steel wire, and I wrapped it around my hydro flask twice just so that it got a good circular shape. And now what I'm trying to do is bind the top with the copper wire just so that it stays together for the rest of the project, basically. So for this I'm using, I think, a 16 or 18 gauge steel wire, and I'm using a 12 gauge copper wire that I found at the store. So yeah, I think that the 12 gauge wire is really useful, and it's a lot easier to bend than the 12 gauge is easier to bend than the 16 gauge, but yeah, so what I'm doing is I'm binding the ends where it comes together, and then when I get a good copper bind, what I'm doing is I'm twisting back each end just to make sure that it doesn't fall apart and pull off. And now what I'm doing is I'm cutting the copper wire lengths. There's going to be 30 in total, and if you missed right there, what happened was I forgot that the wire's under tension, and I let go and it all unwound itself. So I took a little bit of time to wind it back up and until I could start cutting again, which I'm doing now. So each length of the copper wire is about a centimeter on each side, a half an inch on each side of the length of the diameter of the circle. So that's just enough so that you're able to bind it back to the circle itself when I attach it later. For this one, really precise measurements I have. The diameter of my hydro flask, I'm using about 30 wires. If you're going to be doing something smaller, then you use less wires. If it's bigger, you're going to be using more wires. But I came down on 30 on all my test runs for this. So that's what I ended up using. And so yeah, right now I'm just cutting out all the different wires, and eventually I will get to 30. Yep. The funny thing about this is it seems like a really easy thing, and it isn't too hard, but I've never seen someone do it before, and it was my first time doing it today, so it took me a lot of tries to actually get it done. I spent a good 3 to maybe 6 hours figuring out how to do the wires, how to attach them and everything today. So that wasn't the most fun, but now that I know how to do it, it is a lot easier. And I was able to do this one in just under an hour, I would say. So what I'm doing right now is I'm binding all the wires together. To do that, you just have to basically get clamps and clip them in, twist them. I find it's the hardest part of the actual thing to get all the wires to stick together. It just takes a long time just because I don't have a perfect clamp that can clamp all of them at once. But yeah, you just have to keep fiddling with it. But I find is if you get it a good binding to start with, and then you start to bind some of the root bits together, it'll stick a lot better that way, and then you can continue to try to torque the top, knowing that it won't become like unfray itself, basically. So that's what I'm doing right now. I'm getting all the roots sorted out, and now I'm bending back them about half and half so that I can put it onto the circle itself. And as I look at it, it's not perfect, so I'm just gonna keep messing around with it until I get it to how I want. But yeah, that's basically what you do. You just keep bending it back and forth so you can get it real up and close. And now I'm actually starting to bind the roots to the circle itself. To do that, it's really simple. You just wrap it around, not too hard. But yeah, it does take a bit of time and a bit of finagling, yeah, just to get everything on there, because there isn't a lot of room. If you find your roots are too big, I would definitely recommend clipping them, because when they're super long, it's really hard to wrap them around, especially because there is not a lot of room, as I said. So that's what I am doing right now. I'm just clipping and moving them and tying them and making sure everything fits on right. This actually took a bit of time as well, but you know, to do something that you like has to take a bit of time, so it's whatever. Just put on a podcast. I was listening to a podcast the whole time, and just listen to that as you make it, and you'll do well. So I'm trying to get all the roots on, and it looks like now I've gotten half of the roots, or just about half, before I'm going to continue on to the other side. It's funny watching it in sped up now because it took so dang long doing it not sped up. But you guys don't have to sit through all the extreme length of me constantly trying to attach all the roots together and cutting my fingers in the process. Yeah, I'll warn you, if you do make this, the wire is sharp and you can cut your fingers if you're not careful. You won't bleed, but you'll definitely have some substantial sized gashes. Well, not too big, but yeah. You'll just have cuts. Yeah, they'll heal. I've gotten a lot of them doing this. But it's still fun. And even though I have cuts and my fingers are a little sore, I still do it. So, yeah. So it looks like I only got a few more roots to do, and then I'm gonna continue up to the top part, the branches and the remainder of the tree, basically. So I'm just, getting rid of these last few, binding them on, making sure it looks how I like. And then I'm going to continue up to the top. Here I'm showing you my little rootage. Didn't show you too long, but we're going to have a longer view at the end of the video. So now the branches are the exact same as the roots, binding wise. You just wrap around a few times just to make sure they stay. They're actually, I think, a lot easier than the roots because there's way more room. And yeah, there's just so much more room to work with. So for this, you basically, I would recommend just bending your wires and start off by going with 3 at a time, 3 on the other side, 3 on one side, 3 on the other side, and just keep going back and forth so it's relatively even. You don't want like 90% on one half and like 10% on the other. I think that would look not the best, even though we are making a natural thing. A little bit of symmetry. Yeah, never hurts anybody. But yeah, you just make sure the branches are a little bit wavy, not super straight, have a special design. At the start, you don't need to clamp them all too close together. Or you could if you want. You have a lot with 30 to work with. And when you get to the end, you're going to be having ones that bend over a lot of other ones and that go sideways and that go forwards. And yeah. So don't worry about the very start, because as you get to the end, you're gonna realize, oh, I have a lot of branches still to work with. And yeah, but yeah, so just keep going and don't get discouraged by the amount of branches that you still have left, because once you get to the branches that your work with it is almost done with. Yeah. What else? For right now, it's frozen on my screen, so I can't really see what I'm talking you through. But yeah, soon enough, all the branches are going to be done, basically. And then after that, I'll show you a close-up. So there aren't too many branches left on these last few. You just got to make sure that they wrap around how you like, and you just got to make sure to look over the rest and make sure everything's bent the right way that you want and is positioned the right way that you want. And yeah, I'm just about wrapped up now. But yeah, if you like this video, just leave a comment saying you like it. If you didn't like it, tell me why you didn't like it. But now I'm going to show a close-up of what the actual thing looks like and show you slowed down and not super fast. But yeah, thank you.